Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human SOS Show. Appreciate everyone being here today and look forward to a time of conversation. See that we're already got folks with us, Anton, Sina, and Zaid, Marius, and I believe that's Shona and Daryl and Sharon. Welcome aboard. And as you can tell, I am in my car. Got a work commitment today, but I wanted to be here and be with everyone. So, Anton, you want to introduce our topic?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about confidence. We always talk about the human experience and how we are as human beings, and often how it connects to stress on Human SOS Show. Today, confidence, not any different. I will talk from my side at least how confidence connects to stress and what kind of things can happen. But I want to ask the audience as we get going. What does it take to be confident? In your opinion, maybe for yourself, what does it take to be confident? Or maybe what you see in other people, what does it take for them to be confident? What are the components of confidence? Where does it come from? Any of those questions, feel free to type them in the chat and let us know, and we can discuss them further. But Kev, what about you? In your opinion, what does it take to be confident? Where does confidence come from?
Well, for me, confidence starts with accepting who we are. Because at the end of the day, we've got to know who we are and be who we are. And in order to do that, we've got to accept us. And, as we do quite often on the show, a lot of it is based in biblical principle, and loving ourselves is one of the directions, guidance that we receive. And that's not about loving my height or my weight or whatever. It's about loving who our creators made us and accepting that. And when we can do that and not have to feel like we're always proving something, then we go a long way towards having confidence, including accepting our value as we are. We don't need anything else to have value. We are given that by our creator. And so we just need to go with it and uh, accept that. And when we start doing that, then we can have confidence to go from where we are to where we can be.
Of course, and that sounds awesome. And I think that there's a couple ways to look at confidence. Confidence, as Patrick kind of put here, I don't know. Are you able to share comments, Kev?
Hang on just a moment. Hello, Ed Mario. Let's see. Let's try that. There we go.
Yeah, if you proof up on a topic to the point where you're bulletproof, then you have the confidence to speak about that topic in almost any setting. And I think that's a great point, Patrick. I think that being confident about a subject or about a topic comes with deep understanding of it. That's one side of confidence. I think the other side of confidence is what Kev kind of mentioned: confidence in yourself in general, right? And I think that we can be confident that even if we don't know something, with proper study, with proper understanding, with proper resources, we can know what that topic is, right? And that could come from something like growth mindset, something we talk about often. As if I have growth mindset, I know I'm not stuck in who I am right now or what I know right now. With a little bit of work, I can learn that. And I would classify myself kind of on that side of things. I'm personally not knowledgeable in everything, but I know that if I put enough time into it, and even just enough time into it, doesn't have to be like an expert in it, I can confidently speak to it. Because confidently speaking to something doesn't mean I know it all. I can come out with confidence and say, hey, folks, I don't know it all. Just like on this show all the time, I come out confidently and say, I don't know it all. But thanks to your comments, thanks to your involvement, we're going to have a great show this half hour, this hour, whatever it ends up being. And I don't have to be the expert. I'm confident in my own ability to lead this podcast, this show, or whatever it may be. Want to give some
Yeah,
shout outs, Dave?
yeah, we got some additional folks. Rick, good to see you. Sherry, glad to have you. Lisa, good to have you. And I didn't officially recognize Patrick. Thanks for the comment, Patrick. And Let's see. Zaid makes a comment as well. Says accepting and understanding who we are in terms of our strengths and weaknesses. That's certainly another factor that has to be considered. That's a part of accepting ourselves. That is just such a key piece. Again, biblical principle says love our neighbor as ourselves. Well, we got to love ourselves first. And when we can do that, then we will have the confidence to indeed love others and to accept others. And with that, we have a good foundation for our confidence. And that's a key part of it, is having a strong foundation. And welcome, Richard. Glad to have you. And let's see, Sherry offers a comment. Says spot on, confident in the ability to learn about the subject. Yeah, that's a factor. And Richard shares that I feel most confident when I feel I'm trusted and can be relied upon. So outside inputs do factor.
I'm going to jump on Richard's comment, feeling confident, right? And some of the most accomplished people, even in certain subjects, all of a sudden in a new environment could feel not confident, right? They could feel, even though they know the subject, even though they know whatever it is they're talking about really well, for some reason in that moment, they may not feel confident. Maybe it's they're in a place where they're not trusted. Sometimes it's, you spilled on your shirt and now you're looking a certain way, and that may hurt your confidence, right? And that's something that I'm going to take on an angle here and talk about confidence like we don't think often about confidence. Confidence is a state of being. You can know everything in the world, but if you're stressed and your mind is all over the place, your brain chemicals are not in a state to give you the confidence that you should have. Confidence partly comes not just from what we know or who we are, but it comes from how we are in that moment. It has to do with two very important brain chemicals, serotonin and dopamine. I often talk about these and mention them because we don't think about those as an important aspect. So what comes into those? Where do those come from? What balances those out? Well, things that we talk about often on the show. Stress is one of the most negatively impacting things to those chemicals. They have an inverse relationship. When our stress chemicals are high, our cortisol response is high, it usually has an inverse relationship, meaning that the good serotonin and good dopamine are going to be low. And that's going to cause us to maybe not completely lose confidence, but not be as confident in that moment, even if we know the subject matter that we're discussing or what we're talking about, whatever it may be. So understanding how we are in that state and what impacts those chemicals is also just as important as knowing the subject. So, for example, something that we don't think about, how you're eating. Your diet has to do with your confidence. If you make that connection, the diet has to do with those brain chemicals, then your diet has to do with their confidence. I'm not even talking about the way that you look or the weight you carry or anything like that. I'm talking about just a pure state of mind that is determined. Why? Because chemicals create thoughts and thoughts create chemicals. And we always need to remember that if we want to optimize any sort of thing that involves our state of being, how we are, we must remember those brain chemicals that are vital to our success.
Yeah, and I think we quite often forget that the connection between the mental, emotional, and the physical and the spiritual, they're all tied together. And if there's a disconnect or a imbalance in any of those, it throws the others off. And so key piece to remember that they're all interacting with each other and can factor. We may have the right basis spiritually for confidence and be able to um, have the confidence based on that, but our body's off balance. Our chemicals in our brain aren't where they need to be, and it's going to make it extra hard to be where we need to be in terms of confidence. Let's see here. Marius has a comment, says confidence comes from walking with God and knowing your purpose and identity, and that He is in control. The more I walk with Him, the more I have confidence in Him, which gives me more confidence for my purpose. Yeah, I have to agree that a factor in being confident as a person is being confident in in what in our Creator. You know, if we feel like that we're somehow a cosmic accident or something like that, and don't have that confidence in God and what He wants from us, then it's going to be hard to be confident as a person. So that spiritual part and connecting with our Creator and recognizing that is such a key to being truly confident. Because one thing we have to watch for is obviously going from confident to cocky or arrogant. And that's something we have to really watch out for.
We talked about this was a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, but we talked about finding strength that we may not have inside of us, like or outside of us. We don't think maybe have, but it's inside of us from the Lord, right? If we feel like we're serving His mission, then He will be there for us when it's needed, right? We may not have that alone, but with Him in our corner, we can find that. So I think that's a great point, and leaning on that in moments when you feel like you can't do it, you feel like you're not up for it, just coming back to why you're there, and coming back to what Kevin talks about, your design, passion, and purpose. And ultimately that should run through the Lord if that's your faith, or whatever that whatever that may be, whatever that strength may be for me, reminding yourself that you're not in it alone. So that's a great point.
And welcome, Atif. Glad to have you, and I appreciate the comment.
Read the comment, read it.
Okay. Looking very dashing in the car. Thank you. Sometimes I think that being in the car is my best spot. I don't know.
It's
But
great
for the
lighting,
record,
man. It's the lighting.
it's the natural lighting, right? And I did park, by the way, so I'm not driving. Just don't use that as an excuse to go out and drive and talk on the telephone video and all. Let's see. Patrick has a comment. Says, learn to learn to become your own best friend, and it would be much easier to accept others and be approachable. Definitely. Again, if we're part of our problem is we go through much of life. Many of us go through much of life on the defensive, and you can't function well on the defensive because you will have unnecessary emotional responses to people and react to them rather than respond. And it's just not a good place to be. Um, Thoughts on that one, Andon?
Well, you kind of mentioned self-love, and that's where that ties into. But the other part, that if we lack self-love, if we lack being our own friend, we are going to have a lot of self-deprecating language. We're going to have a lot of negative self-talk. And if we're constantly working with that internal voice that's negative and bringing us down, it's hard to have confidence. Yeah, you may project it out there, but you're constantly going to be destroyed from within. And that's a really, really big roadblock to having confidence.
Yeah. Let's see. Patrick also offers don't take yourself too seriously, but take your topic seriously. Then you can laugh in almost any setting. Yeah, keeping it in perspective. That's the value of, I think, spending time in creation, out and about, and marveling at creation, the massiveness of our universe and the beauty of creation and all that. Spending that time out there, which of course exposes us to our Creator, keeps us in perspective, recognizing, yeah, we have great value, but we're only a small piece of a big picture. And to therefore not take ourselves too seriously is very important, because one of the things we do need to do, in fact, Anton and I talk about doing this on a planned basis. Have fun, do some laughing, and including being able to laugh at ourselves, and without doing it from a standpoint of we're not worthy or whatever. Just being able to say, "Oh, yeah, I messed up there," or whatever, and laugh about it, and then go on and correct and grow from it. And so, yeah, not taking ourselves too seriously. Let's see. Um, all right, for you, Anton, this is your wheelhouse. They'd ask about any supplements.
Sure. I mean, it depends. It's kind of hard to talk about supplements because a lot of people will come out there and they'll push whatever supplement they're trying to sell on you and say, "Oh, this is the greatest supplement in the world." Supplements are meant to replace deficiencies that are causing the issue. That's one of the most important things, is understanding what is the deficiency that's causing me to have this problem. For example, if I'm having a serotonin issue, right, and I'm feeling low, and it's one of the most common neurochemicals that's low right now because so many people are dealing with depression and things like that. That comes from lack of serotonin in the brain. So they take a medical prescription of an SSRI, and all it does is fool the brain into thinking there is more of it in the body. It doesn't actually put more in the body. What it does is it often just puts more in a synapse gap, the space between the nerves, where body thinks, okay, I have more of it. But that's why you keep having to adjust medication doses all the time, because it gets used to it. It doesn't keep working. So the body's like, oh, okay, I don't actually have enough. So as an example, if serotonin is low, figuring out why it's low. Most of the time, serotonin is low because our gut health is poor. Right. So, for example, we can take 5-HTP. It's a very common supplement. People use it, usually add it a lot of time into sleep aids because serotonin helps with sleep. We could take that, and that'll help potentially. It's a precursor to it, right? So it can be made more of it when we take this precursor. But the reality is, if the gut health is not good and 80% of our serotonin is made in our gut, well, we can put all the precursors in there we want, make very tiny amount of help, but the reality is we need to address gut health. And if you're having heartburn, indigestion, if your bowel movements are inconsistent, if you're gassy, that's all your body raising its hand and going, hey, I'm not functioning properly. We just got used to it. It may be going on for decades, and you're thinking it is what it is. That's how I am. And I'm like, no, that's just means your body's been raising its hand for a long time saying something's off. So healing the gut, figuring out what triggers the gut, avoiding those foods, providing things that heal the stomach membrane and things like that, is what's going to be even more important than just simply taking 5-HTP. Tryptophan is one that's known to boost brain chemicals. L-Dopa is I think it's like a bean that people use that has precursors to dopamine and things like that. But there's a ton of supplements out there. It's just I'm very cautious to simply go, okay, well, take this supplement because that's what you need. No, we don't know. I don't know what you need because your body is unique and your body's different. But we have to pay attention to symptoms and see what it is. Sometimes it's taking calming supplements, right? Supplements like or GABA, that have GABA in it. GABA is a neurotransmitter that's more of a calming supplement that allows our brain to calm down, so we're not overusing our dopamine as much, because that's what happens a lot of times and why we have anxiety and things like that. So hopefully that's a little bit of a broad answer that I feel more comfortable with, instead of giving you like one and saying, here's a fix-it-all solution.
The point is that being intentional, because there isn't a one-size-fits-all for everybody, unlike what we tend to want to be believe from medicine, that, oh, just take this and you'll all be all better. And we've got to get away from that. Real health, and which contributes to confidence, has to be something we think of, we spend time on, and consider. And Sherry makes a comment. Yes, confident in the Lord. She corrected herself there. It looks like she has autocomplete challenges like I do. And one of the things that I am peculiar about is I'm not big on self-confidence, because my first confidence needs to be in my Creator, and to trust that He's created me well, created me good, for function and purpose. And when I can have that confidence, then my confidence doesn't have to be based on me, but based on Him. And that's why I prefer just confidence over self-confidence. And I know what people mean, and sometimes I get a little bit over the top, but I just like confidence, and I believe that we can have confidence in who God's created us, and really live in that. And think that's where we're the healthiest. Richard says, diet is really important. Good call. If anyone doesn't think so, eat more vegetables. You'll see. Um, yeah. All right, Anton, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you jump on that because that's your strength.
Honestly, it's what I preach over and over and over. We've changed so gradually over our years as humanity, as individuals, that we don't have the contrast of what good is. So to Richard's point, try something for 30 days. Go eat a plate full of green leafy vegetables, lots of colors throughout the day, and pay attention to how much better you feel, right? A lot of the things that happen in our life, as I mentioned already, are due to deficiencies from what our body's lacking in building blocks, right? So it may not have enough to build neurochemicals. It may have enough to build hormones. It may not have enough to build, healthy immune response, stress response, whatever you name it, bone density. And we kind of get used to it. And that's just how we are. We think that's all we are. But the change happens so gradually over the years that we forgot what good feels like. Go challenge yourself. Go do 30 days of something and eat lots and lots of good veggies and see how you feel. And then you'll notice, okay, there's a difference. You don't need to take my word for it. You don't need to take anybody else's word for it. Your body will show you what the difference is. But it takes a little time. It's not like, okay, I had a salad. Now all of a sudden I'm feeling amazing the next day, right? It's not an overnight thing. But if you do it for 30 days, you will notice a difference.
Yeah, and bet on any of it, better to get it through our natural processes, the foods we eat, also our exposure to the sun for vitamin D and different parts, much better that way. Mary, welcome, Mary. And Mary makes comment that this helpful information is so needed. We need to spend time in God's garden. I like that. God's given us what we need to sustain, and we just need to take time to find it and use it in accordance with His design for us. And Sherry makes a good point that self-love is critical. Self-forgiveness is equally critical. I think one of the reasons that we see people truly lack confidence is we've got a lot of unresolved guilt in our own life. And as a result, we go around feeling that we're unforgiven. It's hard to have much confidence when you feel that way. And a lot of people, it goes back to self-love. Part of self-love is be accepting the forgiveness that we're offered, and just like loving ourselves to love others, forgiving ourselves to forgive others. It's hard to forgive others when we won't forgive ourselves. It's all part of the healthy part of life, and it's part of what we need to be doing on a regular basis. And if you haven't picked up on it before, I'll go ahead and mention this is all part of an intentional way to live. It's not just letting things come at us and kind of riding it out. There are times where we have to just endure the storms, but most of the time we need to be living intentionally. And go to one of my favorite subjects. Part of that is learning to be wise, because the wiser we are, the more we see more things about ourselves and others and begin to get a better context for how to function. Comment on that one, Anton?
No, of course. The thing that I think about is like forgiving. You mentioned forgiving others. I think that's a very important thing, right? Like I always come back to internal monologue, and if we have that negative external input, we always see people as bad. We always see people as evil. We always think people are out to get us. Like, because we haven't forgiven them, that's tough. It's tough to operate in life that way. But if you just let it roll off the shoulders and go, okay, they're having a bad day. I don't know what's happening in their life. I can't internalize what they're doing right now, right? If I'm standing in front of an audience and I'm giving a presentation and I have a heckler in the crowd that's just doing something to try to take me off course or argue with me. And if I start holding that grudge and I can't forgive them, it's just going to take me off course. But if I sit there and I forgive them, like, you know what, this person, they don't know me. I don't know them. I don't know what's going on there. God bless you, you know, and move on. It's going to be a whole lot easier to stay confident in that moment for you during that presentation than if you sit there and you hold that grudge.
Yeah. And Richard makes a comment related to Patrick's a sense of humor, being able to laugh at ourselves, laugh at circumstances. Be careful laughing at other people. Don't know what might be hurtful or not, and really consider it. And um, one of the things that is being talked about is among the group here is being too hard on ourselves. And that's why recently I began to realize that I teach a lot about servant leadership. And I apply the principles of servant leadership in relation to the others. And then recently I realized that uh, I have to start by leading myself, which includes applying the principles of servant leadership, which includes forgiveness of others, but also forgiveness of ourselves. So the principles are true, whether we're living them or leading someone else in them, or whether we are leading ourselves in it. And that forgiveness and that understanding, and even a humble approach to ourselves. Again, this thing of where I'm tougher on me than I am on others, I get it. That's the way I was raised, but at the end of the day, that's a problem that we get into because I think it helps build those narratives in our brains that are unhealthy that we talk to ourselves about.
Well, we always bring the word balance in, right?
Yeah.
It's not good to always be easy on yourself, but it's also not good to always be hard on yourself. You need to find balance between the two and push and challenge yourself, expect a lot from yourself, but also have grace for yourself. You know, it's understanding. You know, we talk about the Lord a lot. If He has grace for us, we better have grace for ourselves. I mean, that doesn't make no sense not to follow His path.
Welcome, Sina and Balim and Hawk. Good to see you. Let's see here. And Marius makes a comment, says, knowing your identity and what you're built for is key to confidence. Yes, once I really began to understand design, passion, and purpose for myself, it makes a difference because when things in life hit me that cause me to question or make me wonder, am I doing the right thing, going the right direction? Remembering that design and purpose, and which includes our vision, those are all anchors to help us keep moving in the direction we should. And with those anchors, we can have confidence in what we're doing and who we are. And it needs to be built in based on our design and who we're created to be. And just remember that part of that is we have some common created qualities, but then we have very unique qualities, and that's okay. In fact, we should celebrate that, knowing that others can do things that I cannot because those things need to be done. And therefore, since I can't do it, I don't have to try to be responsible for it. Allow others to be responsible for their design and purpose and function. And that's where we began to, rather than compete with each other, we complement each other in life and in work and everything. Let's see here. Did I welcome Senna? Anton, I did. I'm sorry, I'm on a.
Not sure if you have yet.
And let's see. I believe this is Sharon. Sharon makes comment. Sleep, eating well makes a direct difference on how we feel. Being outside, taking in the fresh air, giving self a moment can change your mindset, leads to self-confidence. because you carry yourself head held high. Anton, thoughts?
I preach this and I won't stop preaching this over and over and over. It's another dimension that we often forget from teaching whatever we teach, not just me and Kev, I'm just mean in general as human beings, what we learn, what we teach, what we are, where we are, what we do, what we know, there's a whole lot of what's, but they're all kind of external, how we are internally. Everything flows through that. Like, you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you're constantly sleep deprived, you're not as smart as you used to be. You're not as charismatic. You can't hold a conversation as well. You can't project that confidence as well. All of it matters. So hopefully, if there's just this show does one thing, that's really what we're after. How we are as human beings matters more than probably anything else out there. Like, you can destroy a knowledgeable person with just poor internal health. But if you have poor internal health, you're going to have the growth mindset to move forward and do anything that it is that you want. I'm not saying they're exclusive. You need both. But the reality is, society, we are not talking enough about how we are, our internal state, and all those things that, Rick's mentioning, that I don't know who was the last commenter, Kev?
I believe that was Sharon.
Sharon's mentioning, and all those people, you're spot on. Because there's a million things that we don't focus on society and we just keep taking for granted. And our society's slipping in many ways because we are taking those things for granted.
Lisa makes a really salient comment, because I think this is something that we deal with all the time, and that is bitterness can wreck the mind and body. And we have a lot of people that are going around bitter. And source of bitterness is unforgiveness. And that's unforgiveness for ourselves if we've never accepted forgiveness, forgiveness from our Creator, as well as from others. It's hard to give forgiveness. And if we hold on to either, it will create what is called a root of bitterness. And I have watched one of the most bitter people I know was a gentleman that was in the news years ago, and was ultimately in trouble with supremacy activities and some bombings. And I actually ran into the man in the grocery store. He actually lived in the city I grew up. And at first, I didn't even know who he was. I'd never met him. But I recognized the picture, and what was remarkable to me was the bitterness that was just evident all about him. Just the way he presented himself physically, the whole bit. And it was really, really sad to see this gentleman and how this bitterness and hate had really built up inside of him, to a point that even his body was affected by it. And so, yeah, that is so true. That's why forgiveness and dealing with forgiveness on a regular basis is important, because we're going to mess up and need forgiveness, and there are going to be people around us that are going to mess up and need forgiveness. And by the way, forgiving others shouldn't be dependent on them asking for it. It should be a practice that we choose, because not only is it better in our relationship to them, but more importantly, it's healthy for us, because we may not ever have to relate with them again. But if we continue to harbor guilt, grudges, and bitterness, then we're the ones that suffer. It's the old saying, it's kind of like holding on to a grudge or being bitter or unforgiving is kind of like taking poison to somehow kill someone else. It doesn't work. It only harms us. Thoughts on that one, Anton?
I love it. I mean, that's the reality. But we're carrying that poison in our pocket whenever we're harboring that. And the reality is that person could have forgotten about it long ago, and we're still carrying it around, and it's not worth it. It's not easy, folks. I mean, let's be real here. It's a lot easier to be bitter than it is to be not. Remember
Mm.
that the world makes it very easy to be bitter. Our news make it very easy to be bitter. Our stress, another, I keep talking about this, makes it very easy to be bitter because we become full of comparison when we're stressed out. We sit there and we think somebody has more than us, and we all look through the wrong lens. Social media makes it easy to be bitter, right? Like that, you name it. There's so many things. So I don't want to sit here and act like me and Kevin are these perfect human beings that don't have these problems and don't struggle with that. We struggle with all of this, just like you struggle with all of this. This is just what we try to do all the time. We don't always succeed.
We understand the principles. We're not perfect in them either, and we definitely bitterness is definitely easy until it's not, because the sad thing about bitterness is by the time it's taken its toll, especially to a point that you see it physically, boy, you've got a lot of damage there and a lot of healing to undo. And ultimately, bitterness will cause your body to fail. That is a fact of life, and it will cause diseases or it will keep our bodies from fighting off diseases that it's very capable of fighting off because we're not healthy in our being. All right, let's see. Zaid makes a comment. Want to go a little towards that. In part, self-confidence also comes from education. When schools keep pushing us to get better in what we're weak in and forget to acknowledge that we're strong in, it's like a dog chasing their tail. Never will build self-confidence. One will always feel short and less. Um, yeah, part of the problem with uh, education, and when I'm talking about education, I'm not talking about learning. I'm not talking about growing that way. I'm talking about the system we're in, is that we're trying to do production of people that are all alike and that are at the same level and learn in the same ways and so on. And it's not healthy. And indeed, for some people, we're pushed to try to overcome weaknesses all the time. And we're never going to be successful in that because part of the reason it's a weakness is that's the way we're designed. And the only reason that in my mind, that it should be considered a weakness is because somebody set this artificial standard that in order to be successful or complete, we got to be strong in that area. And that's not the case either. We all have those areas that we're strong in, and we should be able to function and live in that. We have weaker areas. Doesn't mean we can't grow and have opportunity, but we should not be pressuring ourselves or allow pressure from others to make us somehow feel less because we're not strong in the same area they are. Thoughts on that one, Anton?
I mean, you can be ineffectively confident, right? I mean, it's somebody that's so confident, but they don't have the education, the experience behind it. I hate to call out some of the younger generation, but I've seen that a little bit, where they've been really shoved this growth mindset to a point of over-indexing on it. Like I said, everything has a balance. You can't just believe you're going to learn something. You have to put work into it. As we started with, I think it was Tim's conversation around going deep on things and really, really understanding them. In order to be effective with your confidence, you have to know at least enough to talk about it. You can't just go out there and feel like, oh, I could take on the world without really knowing what it takes to take on the world.
Right. And Hawk makes a comment. He says, personally, I'm not a great fan of forgiving, prefer understanding. Sometimes I think we get into semantics, but certainly a means to deal with forgiveness, to both give and receive it, is understanding. Quite often, once we can identify the context of a situation and we take out intentionals in terms of why someone did or said something, it goes a long way towards helping us deal with those hurts, both on the receiving or giving side. And so understanding certainly a good characteristic. I still have to stick with liking forgiveness because ultimately I think that's something that is part of the bigger picture that we're part of.
It's like you said, semantics. It depends on what forgiveness means to one person, what it means to another. These words are super complicated, super complex, and have a lot of inner lens on them that we may be talking about the same thing. We're just labeling it with a different word. But I just want to take a minute to thank, not even just shout out, but really thank Mary. She says she invited Manny to this podcast, and that to me just makes my day. Me and Kevin talk about this all the time. We keep showing up week in, week out. We'll show up no matter how many people are here. But the beauty of technology is that human SOS can be effective, way more effective the more people are showing up. We can impact the world a lot more if more people are showing up. And we're doing that. I'm seeing more and you overcoming, more and you overcoming. Like the wisdom is greater the more people are here. Right. It's not about me and Kevin having all the answers. It's just about us igniting dialogue and trying to spread this message that we have to do better as society. We have to take care of human beings in professional world and just in general in the world. And I am so grateful when you folks invite people to come hang out with us.
Yeah, that's part of being a part of the human SOS movement, is just engaging others so that they can become a part of it. And it's going to take all of us and more to be able to overcome and address a lot of this, because it's been a long years in happening, and a lot of people contributed to it happening. Now we got to have a lot of people and hopefully not as much time to overcome it and begin to turn the tide a bit. So definitely. So thank you, Mary. Hawk makes the comment. I think goes to our talk about balance. Celebrate uniqueness and aim for unity. One of the most profound little reads I ever had goes back years ago in a little book called Balanced Christianity, and the concept of balance that is taught in there impacted my life remarkably. It helped me understand balance is not walking down the middle of the road and trying to stay in the middle all the time. Balance is having a firm grasp on two opposing characteristics and being able to function with either of them being more prominent than the other at a given moment. My favorite example of that is love and truth. There are times where we need to have just complete and utter compassion and empathy with people enough that we just can offer support and things like that. That's the love side. But there are times where, as we have talked about on the show, we have to be radically candid. And in order to help people, we have to be able to say, this is a problem. You need to do something about this. And that's the balance that we walk between love and truth. And that's how you do balance. Firm grip of both extremes and the wisdom to know when to move more one towards the other or not. Okay, let's see. Lots of comments here. Okay, Zaid makes a comment. Without forgiveness, no matter how much we understand, we will be self-bitter. We better understand, yet it's much better to release the person and let them go away and free ourselves. Thoughts on that one, Anton?
I mean, we've kind of covered it. Release the person, and I just think sometimes people do wrong without realizing they're doing wrong, and it's a certain way we're taking it. I keep coming back to, we don't know what's going on in their life. We don't know what thought they had when they made the action or made the statement that they did, and it doesn't make it okay. Forgiveness doesn't make it okay that they did it. Forgiveness makes it that we forgive them for doing it. Right? Like, it doesn't mean that we're encouraging him to do it next time. It doesn't mean any of that. We're just simply saying that we don't know what brought that on. I'm not going to carry that in my back pocket with me, and I'm going to forgive you for doing that, because I've done plenty of things in my life that I've asked for forgiveness and will continue to do so.
Yeah, one of the examples I like about that is forgiveness is like holding on to a piece of a situation or a someone else, and two things happen. One is it connects them and they maintain control over us, and the same is if we don't release others, they have the same problem. Second thing is, as we're holding on to a piece of a situation or a person, after a while our hands get so full we become ineffective. We can't do anything else because we've got all this stuff in our hands that we're carrying around, and it makes us ineffective, and it will also tire us out. Any of a number of other possibilities there. um, Sherry makes an observation. In my experience and observations, those who do not forgive in their heart tend to build up strife, anger, and stress. I would agree with that. We talk about stress. Unforgiveness is a massive stressor, and it will gnaw at you and eat at you constantly, even in the background. Anton?
Uh, you know, our brain only has so much capacity for how much stuff we can keep in there and how much is preoccupied. The more we are not in the present moment, which if we haven't forgiven somebody, that means we're not in the present moment. We're holding on to the past. We're thinking about what happened in the past, or we're thinking about how we're going to interact with that person in the future. Do our paths cross again? Right? We're not in the moment that we're in. And if you don't do that with enough things, even if you don't have a super stressful life, you're going to have symptoms of a very stressful life because your brain is always all over the place. It's always going from past to future, skipping the present, and that's not good for us.
Welcome, Ralph. Glad to have you with us. Dr. Jasmine, I apologize. I didn't see you guys had joined us. Glad to have you with us. Um, Another example that, comment that Rick makes, and such an important thing: forgive quickly, apologize quickly. And I like this one. Unforgiveness becomes a self burden, a heavy brick on the shoulders. Yeah, the more we hold on to those things, it weighs us down so much. Let's see. Ralph has a comment. Great point earlier, Kevin. When we walk with him, we complement each other. We will always have something to offer as we reach out to others, sharing the hope we find that is in Christ. Um, yeah, part of our confidence is our willingness to share how we've grown, how we've learned, and the blessings we've received, so others can experience that as well. Let's see. Senna makes a comment. I agree with your insight, Kevin. When you forgive, you definitely can come up to a higher vision inside your consciousness. Okay. Let's see. Winding down time wise, I realize things move fast when we're having good discussion, doesn't it?
I got to drop here in a couple of minutes because I got to call it at 7:00 my time for the client.
Yeah, I'm going to need to run as well. As you can tell, I'm getting ready. We're hosting about 700 of our closest friends.
I can hear your phone buzzing. People are like, "Let's go, man." No, but folks, I know that I need to do better. I mean, both Kevin and I need to do better. We are not good about self-promotion and things like that, but we have to remind ourselves our mission is greater than our lack of confidence in that situation, I guess. Mm-hmm. But we get asked a lot, how can I help? What can I do? You know, when Mary said she shares a podcast, the best thing to do is share the hashtag #HumanSOS. If you don't follow it, follow it. If you want to share it, please share it. Feel free to use it, abuse it. It's not meant for us. It's not something that's, coined for me and Kevin to reserve to ourselves. It's a humanly sustainable operating system. Right? How do we keep humans on this planet and allow us to thrive? We just finished Earth Day, right? I think it was the 22nd or something like that. Yeah. And I always think about this, love our planet. But our planet will outlive us. Believe it or not, I fully believe that the course we're going right now, our planet is going to outlive us. we have to think about sustainability as a broader thing, not just towards our nature and our planet, but also to our own beings, our own ecosystem, the human ecosystem. And by following this hashtag, by spreading that, you'll see other messages outside of what maybe this podcast has, what Kevin posts sometimes, what I post sometimes. If it's relevant to that topic, we will tag hashtag human SOS. So feel free to follow it. Feel free to share it.
And if you know any organizations that would like to improve their culture, their ecosystem as an organization for their teams, their leaders, their people, one of the things we're prepared to do is to get in touch and talk with them and can find out if there's something we can offer. And if so, then contract with them to help do that. And hopefully you can offer that confidently. One of the things that we do, of course, is we've offered 106 hours of free learning and information. So we're not just about trying to get a buck off of everybody, but there are times where that's necessary. But even then, if we approach an organization, our part of our initial priority is to work ourselves out of a job, and because we want to help human sustainability in an organization to a point that we're not needed for that. This is not where we want to get in and do the whole thing all the time. We want to empower others to be able to be humanly sustainable. So if you know those opportunities, please share them with others. Hey, we'll be back next Tuesday, as always. If you have suggestions for a topic, we've enjoyed having suggestions on topics. Please throw those out, and because that's even better than us deciding something. So thanks, everyone, and God bless. Have an amazing week. See you next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Take care. Bye.